has it in their body to varying degrees of why they love his club so much. And it's just something that keeps, to the day I die, it's going to be building and building. So it's been about 15 years, I'd say.
I mean, there's a couple of things in there that I really relate to. The first thing is about not wanting to reach out in terms of, I had a similar, when I lived in New York, and, obviously, yourself living in America, if you're living in a particular, you're immersed with this particular sports teams of that area. And, the New York Yankees are on Yes Network every single night, and I used to watch it every single night and go to a few games and that kind of thing. But never would I had the confidence to, go on a message board or, go talk, even now talk about, Yankees this and that, because I feel like the thing. But the flip side of that is, and this is the second great thing I think you said, was the fact that the Yankees are never ever going to reach out to me, but someone from Celtic did, and it just happens to be a Lisbon Lion that reached out to you. And I think what Jim Craig's done there is done what I think any Celtic supporter would have done, would be immediately to be quite excited by the fact, as you say, that he didn't immediately come from an obvious Celtic background or even area, that they actually want to kind of immerse you more into the club. And it's funny because although I think, you kind of touched on it yourself there, Scott, about how we sort of feel distant from our club, particularly just now, and the players and the directors and whatever. I don't think we'll ever be as distant as you would be as an American sports fan, because you would never have any interaction with the front office or the players, would you?
And it's like, I don't think for people that would be listening in the UK and everything, it's a little different in the States with the disconnect between athletes and the fans in the States is massive. I mean, it really is. Like, I've supported the football team, the NFL team, the Eagles, probably since I could walk. And I've never met one player in my life, never had a face-to-face encounter, never met any of the front office. Now, I laughed when I saw, we talk about a mutual friend, Chaz Duffy, in the Bronx, and he had the picture of him and Tommy Burns. And I was like, man, that must have been like, I would have had that picture like blown up and framed, and it would have been like half the wall in my living room. But I've never had that kind of magical moment with any of my teams, Phillies, Flyers, Eagles, Sixers, none of them. And so why is Celtic special to me is because that even a guy halfway around the world, this club has somehow managed to make a personal connection to. I don't have any Prem teams. I'm not a soccer guy. I have my local club, the Union, and I have Celtic, and that's between the two of them. That's, especially with Celtic, that's about all the passion I could have for the sport of football.
Excellent.
I couldn't share it with an English club.
Yeah. And of course, how I first got to know you was probably how most people in the Celtic world got to know you, was obviously calling up Beyond the Waves, and it was pretty soon after that I asked you to record a piece for the audiobook. I mean, what was that like for you? I mean, had you done anything like that before?
Never. I've talked in front of crowds before, work in education and everything. You work in classrooms, and I'm used to talking in front of people and everything. But to me, I really wanted to do a good job. And I mean, it's like when this is, again, we have a lot in common, dude. I feel like we have a lot in common.
Yeah, definitely.
And I know how much this whole project means to you and everything. And when you tell someone you're going to commit to something, that's their word. Where I grew up at, you had your word. You give your word on something, that was as good as money. And you don't sit there and half-ass something just because you don't feel like doing it. This, I couldn't have been, more than hyped about. The fact that you asked me to even read, I was just like, oh my God, this is like living in dreamland or something. And I never did anything like that. And it was, I must have done it recorded it like 20 times just to make sure I sounded like, okay, this sounds good. I asked my wife, I said, does this sound good to you? She's like, knock it the fuck off. Just send it to him. It sounds great.
Well, that was the thing, was exactly what you said, was the similar background thing, was that I wanted the awards to be read by people for similar backgrounds to me. I didn't want them to be read by people who were professional actors or, any of that bullshit, because I wanted, to me, it's us against them, and that's kind of why. But talking about Get Your Word and It Moves, a nice segue into the little trailer that you helped shoot, which was basically in Philadelphia in January. Now, I'll reveal something for the first time that nobody knows until the night after we tell this, but the idea of that was, of course, to sort of semi-recreate the famous Rocky scene. And I believe that you had just no long come out of surgery on your leg, or...
Yeah, I just had my knee scoped, not even 2 weeks before that. I had arthroscopic knee surgery.
Mm.
And, again, it doesn't matter. When you want to help out a friend, it doesn't matter. I don't have to be... I feel like I know what kind of person you are. Down to earth, real easy to get along with. We have the same interests, live and bleed Celtic football. Forget about it, man. I'm doing it.
And see, because the thing from my end was that, at that point, that was just about the time we decided, we're going to do a documentary. But I mean, who the fuck were we? We'd never made a documentary before, etc., etc., etc. So I knew that we needed something to show people, and that was, I thought, right, this gathering in Philadelphia, that's what I get. Now, that piece of the whole trailer was never going to be in the film. The clips of you jumping up and down are in the film, I can say that, but obviously the whole trailer was never going to be in the film, because really it doesn't have much to do with the film.
Right.
But the funny thing is, Scott, and I say nobody knows this until the night, is that we actually got a letter from Sylvester Stallone's lawyer after that saying if you're using this, you need to pay for it.
Really? To what? Fucking run up the army and stuff?
Yeah, like if the wee tiny bit of Rocky footage. And let's just say...
It's so fucking disappointing, man. Does that greedy fuck really need that?
Exactly.
Fucking steps. I was born in the fucking city. Unlike him, I was born in the city.
It took them about 2 months for a kind of cease and desist kind of thing. A big London lawyer and all this nonsense on behalf of Sylvester Stallone. And the funny thing about it was that we were like, once we started the film and the production and had got a lot of stuff, and because I went in here blind. Luckily, I had a fantastic production team with great experience. The amount of stuff that lands on the cutting room floor is unbelievable. You know what I mean? You shoot like 22 hours for a 45-minute film, And we were like, just let's see for a laugh how much it would actually cost us to put that footage in. Because at that point, there was, I think, about £600 left of the budget, which actually ended up going £300 over budget, but that's another story. And do you know how much that footage, Sylvester Stallone running up that Philly street, would have cost us? $950,000.
Are you serious?
For a 15-second clip. So it's just like...
Tell that wrinkly old prick I'll get in the octagon with him. We'll fight it the fuck out.
That's like, fuck that. We've got the real Stallone here. Boom, that's it, done. And as you say, born out of bred Philly, none of this fucking Brooklyn shit. But...
I was like... That's hilarious, man.
I mean, honestly, people sometimes think I exaggerate the stuff we go through. There's something nobody ever knew until now. And, it just came up again last night, and that's how I remembered it. But a nice segue into Philly, because, of course, as people will know, or may know, the US premiere of the Asterisk Years is in Philadelphia. Now, a lot of people thought I would go to New York. That's not the reason, for the obvious reasons, I beg your pardon. But the reason I'm going to Philadelphia is primarily because that's where this documentary started, with your trailer. Plus, you obviously got Graham and Seamus and all these people and that kind of thing. Good friends of mine, whatever. But two things I want to ask you, Scott. First off, there's already been an East Coast meet in Philadelphia. I want you to tell me about that. And secondly, I want you to tell me about the city of Philadelphia, because it gets kind of a bad press at times, I think. And I've been there, and I think it's fantastic. But go ahead and tell us exactly what it's like.
Philly's a great town. It's also a great Celtic town, too. We've hosted Celtic a couple of times already for playing friendlies against, like, Real Madrid. I saw the picture. We have two big CSCs in Philly. The Philadelphia CSC, which is the older one, and the Second Street Plowboys, CSC, which I frequent their establishment over at Plow on the Stars, and part of that crowd with John Joe and Seamus and all the guys there. They're really good, and they really love and support the club. Philly is a wonderful town. It's a working man's town. We, as I said, I was born there. I was born in South Philly, near the stadiums, Lincoln Financial Field, Veterans Stadium, all that. Blue collar as it gets. People live and breathe their sports. We live and die with our teams. You know, someone, a Philly writer once said, "There's no ballet dancers in Philly. It's only ditch diggers." and it's the truth. My grandfather was a longshoreman. He worked on the river. You know, he worked nights bartending at the tap room across the street to make extra money so that my mom and her brothers and everything would have a decent, you know, education. They went to Catholic school down the street, and it's a great town. It's like a family town. You know, your neighbors. Nobody's strangers. I love New York. I think New York's a great town, but it's so incredibly massive. It's like, unless you're in one of these like really tight kind of neighborhoods, like where Chaz lives and everything, out in the Bronx and everything, you don't really get a greater feel for the town except for your little niche. But Philly, you know, it's people stand up for each other. We stand up for the little guy, and it's as much as I love seeing the world, I could think of I would, if they want to scatter my ashes over Philly, I'd be totally cool with it. I mean, it's a great town. There's a lot to see, you know, Cradle of Liberty, Declaration of Independence there, signed at Independence Hall. We have one of the biggest famine memorials in the world. It's a couple blocks from Plow on the Stars. Like I said, every year, you know, we have the second oldest St. Patrick's Day parade on the planet. You know, I mean, it's old, and it's been done for ages, and we marched in it last year, Plow on the Stars, the Second Street Plowboys, and we had great representation for that. It's just a great town. I remember Graham, you know, you know Graham, and he visited Glasgow, and he said that Glasgow and Philly are extremely similar in so many ways, and it just makes me want to get to Glasgow all the more, because I think it would just fit me like a glove. I really do.
And what can people expect from the East Coast Celtic supporters meet? What was it like last year? I mean, can you remember anything?
Yeah, it was pretty wild. A lot of craziness going on. Just people from all over North America, you know, coming to be around other Celtic supporters. You know, traveling, you know, doing what they had to do to get there. Nobody bitched about how far they had to travel. You had guys coming from Canada and from New York. You had guys coming from Georgia, South Carolina. I mean, people, if, you know, we're on the other side of the world, but this is real dedication stuff, man. You know, you're not talking about, we don't live 15 minutes apart from each other. This is a big freaking continent, okay? And people love Celtic enough that they're going to do whatever they have to do to get in the company of other Tims. And it was a blowout. It was a total blowout. People were hitting the city, you know, partying to the wee hours of the morning. I mean, some never really stopped. And,
even
it was
since.
a great freaking time. We really put on a party.
Brilliant. Well, I mean, this is absolutely flown in. And just before we get on to your song and why you picked it, Scott, I just want to thank you personally for the bottom of my heart for the colossal part you've played in the Asterisk Years project. Not just doing the audio book, not just helping me out with the trailer that got the whole thing on the go for the documentary, but just being there as a friend and as a brother. And I really appreciate that, mate.
That's, you know, it's, again, part of, you know, I have so much respect for you, Paul. You really put yourself out on a limb to write a book like this, to take on a project like this, because from where I sit, there's a lot of people that really probably aren't, you know, they weren't thrilled about all that stuff coming out. And that you know, we could sit back from a distance and say, yeah, go ahead, Paul, do this, you know, rah, rah, rah. But you're going to be in the company of those people every day in your day-to-day life, that are going to be pissed about what you're writing, about what you're filming. And that's kind of watch your back stuff a little bit. So there's some courage there that I have total